Good morning. Taylor Hemness here from KSHB 41 with another episode of Faith in KC, our June episode. Thanks so much for watching, especially if this is your first episode of Faith in KC. If you're new to us, I hope you'll enjoy this episode today, as all of them. I hope you'll enjoy. I'm recording this introduction for this just a few moments after the Supreme Court announced its decision on Roe v. Wade and overturning that decision on Friday morning, June 24th at about 9 a.m. or a little after 9 a.m. I tell you that only because this will be posted just within 24 to 48 hours after that, in a time where we will obviously still be in a mindset of differences, division, in the terms of strong opinions about what we believe. The reason I'm pointing that out is because of today's guest. And I will say what I'm about to say. I think this is only the second time I've said this in an introduction for one of these episodes, and that is that this guest will probably get some strong reaction. I know it will. Today I'm talking to Jordan McKinney. He is the president of the Kansas City Atheist Coalition. And if your first response is, in a conversation about faith, why are you talking to an atheist? Honestly, I think that answer is pretty obvious. And I'm a little bit embarrassed that I have not had someone with his perspective on before. Now, I mentioned the abortion case at the beginning of this. He and I spoke before that came out. We did not talk about it at all. And I don't intend to make this about that at all. I just want to make clear that I think in a time where we are talking about very strong opinions that divide us on many, many levels, important to us, I'm thankful that this is the conversation that I'm bringing you today, because I know there are obviously strong opinions about this, as he references too. I want to point out also, if you listen to the entire episode, thank you in advance if you do. He, at one point, Jordan does references a nonprofit here in town, City Union Mission, in regards to working with that organization. I hope you'll listen to the end, because I reached out to that organization, City Union Mission, to respond to what he said, and I will be sharing that at the end in a message similar to this. So I hope you'll stick around for that, or at least fast forward and hear what that part is. As always, you can reach me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. I'm available on all the social medias. You can email me at taylor.hemness@kshb.com. I'd love to hear your thoughts, especially if they're strong and civil. I'd love to hear your questions. I'd love to hear your opinions about who I should speak to next. I hope you'll check out some of the other episodes, especially if this is your first one and it makes you want to see what other people have had to say. There's been so many great conversations in the history of this series, and I feel like this is another one. So please enjoy the June episode of Faith in KC. So I'm thrilled to welcome Jordan McKinney, who is the president of the Kansas City Atheist Coalition, to this episode of Faith in KC. Jordan, thanks so much for taking some time out of what I'm sure is a very busy schedule. You and I were talking before we started recording that you have a kiddo at home, so I just assume you're busy. So thanks for taking some time.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you, first off, two questions. One, a definition, and two, a question I don't think I've asked any other guest that has been on Faith in KC. So let's start with the definition. How do you define, and how should people define atheist?
An atheist is simply a person who has a lack of belief or just does not have a belief in God or gods. That is the single unifying principle to what defines what an atheist is. It's just an absence of a belief in a higher power, or, a pantheon of gods, or a monotheistic view of the world where one God, usually a creator, is responsible for most or all of the inner workings of our lives.
Okay. Now here's the question that I'd have to go back and look. We've done about 24 of these episodes, but I don't think I've asked anybody else this. What do you think will be the reaction when someone clicks on this and sees that I have an atheist on Faith in KC? What would you expect to be a reaction to you being on this?
Wow. What a tremendous question. So, I'll be blunt. I think you're going to see a range of reactions. Certainly my hope and the hope of people at KCAC is going to be that you see some people recognizing Taylor, your willingness to dialogue with somebody, from the atheist community. So I hope there's some positivity around that. I would expect there's probably going to be some vitriol, some very impassioned reactions to having this on there. I think all of us in the atheist and secular community in Kansas City have witnessed tragically multiple reactions that are relentlessly negative, very judgmental, sometimes frankly threatening harm or wishing bad things to happen to us. It can get that nasty. We see it when we go out and do public events too. We try to go talk to people face to face and make ourselves available. We do what are called Ask an Atheist events, and our goal there is not to go out and start fights. It's kind of funny. We do consider agitation just being there. And what does that say? Just our mere presence can sometimes be considered agitative, I guess. And so when you post this online, I think some people are going to have a very negative reaction. But, there's always those folks that recognize that our society's best off with a plurality of viewpoints and a plurality of beliefs, kind of that wonderful melting pot concept. And so my hope is that if you do get the bad comments, you'll be able to focus on the good.
I think that's a fair hope. That would be my hope as well. I feel like I should put a disclaimer in, by the way, if this is your first episode of Faith in KC, these started in 2020 during the height of the pandemic. As I mentioned, we've got a couple of dozen episodes. I always like to say, and I will probably reference it again during the course of this interview, I was raised in the church. I'm still a member of a faith community. I'm a member of a Church of Christ, but that's not what this series or these episodes are about, to convert anyone to anything. These episodes are about finding out about different faith traditions, or in this case, a lack of a faith tradition maybe is the best way to describe it, or a lack of faith anyway, and talk about what that looks like and what that means and what living a life like that is about. So hopefully you'll continue with this after his answer and my explanation there. There's lots to unpack in what you just said, and I'm going to do my best to try and keep this episode the same length as what our normals are, because I'm so interested in everything you have to say. But I'll start with you a little bit. Let's dive into just you personally, because you and I have never met in person, but we talked over the phone about a different story that I was working on. And you told me in that conversation, you do have a background with faith and in religion. Tell me a little bit more about what your history personally is with religion and with faith.
Absolutely. Yeah. And as just a beginning note, a lot of people in the atheist community came from systems of faith. I think that's important, but I'll just drop that and move on. As far as I go, I was raised in a Lutheran church system. I was baptized in a Methodist church because of, I'd say that was motivated by my grandparents' belief and their societal relationships, if that makes sense. And so I wasn't baptized until I was about 11 or 12. It was kind of unorthodox. And after that, I would say, things started to change for me just based on my world experiences. So as a very young person, probably 9 or 10, my uncle, who was one of my favorite people in the world, one of the kindest people you could have ever met, was diagnosed with HIV, which then went on to become, full-blown AIDS, as they say. And his life was taken by the AIDS epidemic. And so that was kind of my first experience of wondering, just kind of the very hackneyed question in atheist versus Christian debates, why can bad things happen to such good people? And we went to go visit his AIDS quote panel when it was touring through Wichita, and we had to work through a line of picketers from the Westboro Baptist Church just to go honor our uncle. And as kids, I had 2 siblings there with me that day, and we endured having insults and just absolutely hateful things hurled at us. And so, that was a very polarized view of Christianity coming to me in a very early stage of my life. So that was definitely a formative experience. You fast forward to about when I'm 17 or 18 years old, and my mother informed us all that she'd been diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. So this woman who had worked in social work her entire life, had fought for numerous youth to be placed in loving and caring foster homes, who took a personal investment in making sure that those kids were placed safely, and she would follow up with them. I made friends with kids who were part of the foster system as a child, and some of those were some of the greatest friends I would ever have. Went on to open her own restaurant, really kind of that American dream that anybody can do this. And she really gave it everything, 16-hour days, baking and cooking and handling books and things like that. And we all helped, of course, but then eventually she succumbed to cancer at the age of 46, so, fairly young. And that was definitely a very difficult experience for us. And so, this is where, as a young man, I naturally kind of start to wonder, what is the daily influence of God in my life? And so frankly, my story is going to be easy for a lot of people of faith to write off. Well, sure, he had an avalanche of stuff dumped on his head. He's probably just angry at God and, turned away from faith as a result. That really wasn't it. My response to that was to question, just to ask questions, try to gain more knowledge. And so that experience of losing my mom was a central motivator for me to go do religious studies on the college level. So in an academic environment, I had the chance to read about many faith traditions. I had a chance to learn about Christianity far more in depth. I took classes with titles like Understanding the Bible, and I took classes like the Dead Sea Scrolls. I also took classes on Buddhism, Islam, certainly Judaism. I had a chance to dialogue on a daily basis with scholars of every order, scholars who themselves were non-believers and some who were deeply, deeply entrenched in their faith. And so it was a tremendous experience. So the funny part is I didn't just, kind of fall straight into atheism. I think the transition point was I really picked up Buddhism, and technically I'm still a card-carrying Buddhist. I took the 3 refuges in a temple on a mountain in Taiwan as part of a study abroad experience. And that was wonderful. I would say Buddhism has informed a huge amount of my current worldview. And people who know about Buddhism know it's fairly non-committal. People use words like atheistic philosophy to describe Buddhism sometimes. And so you could consider that. I'm imagining a person of devout faith calling that a gateway drug. They'd see Buddhism as my gateway drug to atheism. But
well, and also I should say, shameless plug, if you are watching this for the first time, I've also had a conversation with Buddhist Lama Matt Rice. I've had a conversation with him from here in Kansas City too. So as you're listening to this and you get through and say, I want to hear more about Buddhism, go listen to that episode too. So please continue.
Yeah, absolutely. The great thing about Buddhism is there's no there's no buy-in. They welcome everyone to the table. So that was a fantastic introduction to organized religion. But even within that, things were cognitively dissonant for me when I visited the temple. So imagine, about a 22, 23-year-old American kid in the middle of an Asian country he's never been to, literally on an island. So I'm far flung away from any of my comforts. And one night I take a walk in the monastery. We had some free time. And so I decided to take a walk. And they were okay with us venturing outside the boundaries of the monastery, just with the usual admonitions of be cautious and take care of yourself, travel with a buddy and things like that. Yeah. So I grabbed a friend who wanted to go out and take photos. We went for a walk. So we're inside this monastery where you look down at the ground and the bricks of the sidewalk literally sparkle. Like they have chosen bricks that literally have like some kind of glitter in them, right? It's beautiful and it's wonderful. There are, 8-story tall statues of the Buddha that took, unbelievable amounts of money and manpower to erect. And then I walk outside the monastery and I have to go literally less than a block before I'm standing before a shanty town with a trash fire, going in the middle.
Yeah.
And when I say shanty town, what I mean is we're talking about a collection of, abutting sheds. So little sheds that people have constructed next to each other in sequence, and that was a tremendously powerful picture of what community looks like in poverty. But then you juxtapose that with the monastery with the high walls and the huge gold statues and the glittering bricks, literally not a block away. So that, you could say, was kind of a formative experience for me as well. And then going back to my church, to really talk about what I do think is fair to say drove a wedge between me and my youth faith community. Our church always had the same philanthropic aims that I think a lot of churches do. We're going to buy several cattle for a community in Africa, and that is truly wonderful. I definitely applaud any such aims to give and try to make people's lives better. I think most atheists do. We want to see social progress, and our church was doing that. And then it's also important context to know I grew up in an incredibly talented musical community. It was a very small community, but it was one of the top 100 school systems to grow up in if you wanted to become a trained musician. And so we had no shortage of musical talent. The reason that's important is because at one point the church had to vote as a community on whether or not to replace the organ. And they got bids from organ suppliers and settled on a $500,000 organ. And so the question comes up before the church community, and I attended, I was part of the youth council at the time. I was fairly invested in the church community. And so, I'm invited, of course, everybody's invited to come and sit down and have this conversation with the church about approving $500,000 to spend on an organ. And as I'm sitting there, my turn comes to speak. And so I do. I stand up and I say, listen, our music is probably more important to us as a community than it is to most communities. And I love that about us. I definitely do have an issue with us spending this much money on a musical instrument.
Yeah.
I understand how we can use that to, bear up our members and further, our investments on a personal level with the church. But at the same time, I can also think of a lot of ways $500,000 could benefit our community, could benefit, the communities that we try to reach across the world, to do some good.
Yeah.
And so, great. I did my stump speech and I made my point and everybody nodded. And I think there were probably some elders in the church going, I'm glad he's standing up for his principles, that Jordan.
And then the
vote came down and it was 280 to 1.
Yeah.
In favor of getting the organ. So I just, wow. Okay. And so that was a difficult thing for me. And my dad was also very active in the church, and he and I had some very wonderful conversations about it, and I was a teenager. I was mad. And he was the one to really kind of talk me through that and understanding it. And so as I go on throughout my study of the world and religions, I look out and I go to California on a school group trip, and I visit my first $10 million mega church. And this is where we're not talking about $500,000. We're talking about factors beyond that.
Yeah.
How much good could that have done? And that's a slippery slope for atheists to get into. Then we're kind of almost risking becoming antagonistic about digging into faith tradition. What are you doing to help?
Yeah.
How are you helping your community? I'm not sure that's always our place. But that was the journey I had, and it arrived at atheism because, and I want to qualify that. I consider myself first and foremost a secular humanist, and that's an important term. So it's easy to say atheists lack belief. I do have a lot of belief. I have a lot of faith. I have that faith in humanity. I've seen what human beings can accomplish. People like my mother and my uncle, who we lost, and my way of honoring them is to remember the good that they put out into the world, to believe that others are doing that good right now and they need our help, they need our support. That's my belief system. I consider myself an atheist, but I would even qualify that. I would say I'm an agnostic atheist. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I authoritatively know that there is no God or gods or higher powers or deities. I don't know that. I don't have a way to measure that or qualify that. There are people in our atheist community who do say, I'm positive there's no God.
Yeah.
There are people who just don't even entertain the question anymore, and that's the category I fall into. I'm not actively looking for God. I don't see a need for that. I have skills and talents I can offer that will benefit the people immediately around me. So that's my focus and that's my mission.
Yeah.
Who can I work with today to try to make the world, our society, the Kansas City community, who can I work with today to make that better for everyone?
Yeah.
And so that's kind of the grand story.
It is a grand one, with a lot of twists and turns there. I was not expecting a $500,000 organ to be brought up in that.
Sorry.
No, let me ask you this, because as I mentioned, I really could ask you questions all day. I think it's really interesting, and you're very clearly a very smart guy and could give me long answers on a lot of these questions. So
sorry. I'll try to keep them shorter.
No, that was not a shame on you. I love hearing people explain things. But let me ask you this: you mentioned, and we're going to get more into this in a moment, but you mentioned at the top of this conversation about how people sometimes react to atheists, people of faith communities react to atheists. And I want to dig into that for a second in terms of the why. We'll talk more about just that happening here in a moment, but because the why that makes me think of is, as a member of the Church of Christ, I know that part of what I am called to do is to share my faith with other people, and to go out and, to always have a reason for your belief and always have a reason for the joy that you have kind of mentality, to be able to willingly share that. I'm not always great with that. I think most Christians, if they're being honest, will say sometimes I'm not really comfortable with that. I'm fine just going to church and letting the people that see me on Sundays know that I'm a Christian, and that's enough for me. I'm not calling that right or wrong, but I just know that's where a lot of people are. My question for you is, are there different ways of approaching that when it comes to different atheists, as far as I am out to actively share my non-belief in God or gods with other people, versus I don't need to, it's not about hiding my atheism. It's just about, I don't need to come up to you and tell you you're wrong, or I'm fine. If that's what you want to believe, that's perfectly fine with me, versus no, let me tell you all the reasons that there's proof that there's no God. Like, is there a delineation there for certain atheists on how active they are in wanting to disprove people, so to speak?
Absolutely. Sure. I think there are going to be what you could humorously call evangelical atheists who do. And I think the term that might best apply is anti-theist. There are people within the atheist community who, on some level of the spectrum of fervency, if you will, believe that religion should not exist. It does not belong. They may even, say some things that people would find hateful. Religion is a virus. Religion is a poison. Then automatically you've kind of tumbled down the slope into, communism and stamping out of religion as the opiate of the masses. Yes, there are certainly people who believe that. I don't think that's the majority. What do they say? Every village, kind of has its circular group. I don't want to insult anyone in the atheist community or anybody faith communities. That's not my goal. But I think, we have people who feel that strongly about it, and those people, I think, would be impassioned to go out and say, "Here's why you're wrong." And I'm going to come to you and tell you that you're wrong. I would say the majority of certainly Kansas City Atheist Coalition's efforts is kind of, I think, in some ways similar to what you're talking about with your approach. I'm here, right? I'm standing right here. And so if you have questions, if there's something in particular you want to know, you are welcome to come to me. I will not, chase you down. I won't. sort of invade your bubble to come and tell you what I believe and why I think you should believe the same thing as me.
There's a difference between hiding something about yourself and not feeling like you have to hoist it on other people.
Exactly. Yeah. That's something where I'll be honest, this is one of my critiques of kind of mass atheism, if you will. So this is a huge generalization. Take it with a grain of salt. But what I see, especially online, social media, I think you would be well served. If you want to see this in action, go on Reddit. I think Reddit is where you're going to find, atheists going out and having conversations. Fair enough. But here's what happens. So someone of faith comes out and makes, maybe just a humble proclamation that is informed by their faith. And they may point it at, a secular topic or even a secular community. Now you've poked the beehive. And that's when you'll see a swarm of atheists, come out. And that's when, they feel they have a podium to stand on or stand behind, to come out and do that because you said this thing and that provoked this. Right. We now have provocation. We have a justification to come out of the woodwork and assault your beliefs.
Yeah.
I'm certainly, as an individual, not the type of person to join up with that. I read it and I watch it because I want to know how other atheists are processing what's going on in the world. I need that sense of community for myself. How are we all talking about this? Have you found any good ways to, categorize what's happening politically? We see what, non-believers think of as an erosion of the separation of church and state in our society and our politics. Just very recently, we have a Supreme Court decision saying basically, if you want to provide taxpayer money to schools, you have to provide it to religious schools too. And smart people, reasonable people are saying, okay, let's take this slowly and think about that. What does that mean? That doesn't mean that the government is saying you must fund religious schools. What it's saying is it has to be equal. You have to fund the secular public school system as well as the religious school system. Where atheists are very concerned about that is it's going to inevitably result in taxpayer funding of a religious ideology. Religious schools are religious schools for a reason, and we feel like we've abided for so long with saying, if you want your child to learn religion, that's great. That's why private religious school systems exist.
Right.
And so on and so forth. And they say, well, we want taxpayer money for that. Well, churches already don't pay taxes by and large, and so you're already receiving an exemption. This is where these are encroachments to us. This is where we tend to go on the defensive. And I think more and more you're going to see atheists and non-believers much more easily provoked, to share why they think you should have no faith like us. We're getting grouchy. Everybody is, And it's getting harder and harder for people to hold back. More and more, everyone, people of faith and lack thereof, are feeling more and more called to take their stand and go out and write their novel in public and say, this is why I'm right and I'll always be right. And if you're not with me, you're against me. So I hope that helps. So that's how I see it. So.
And a couple of an anecdote and an admission from me. One, I went to a private Christian university, and I feel like those are the kind of things that I should make sure the audience knows, just so they know where I'm coming from. I went to Abilene Christian University in West Texas, and so I definitely understand where that conversation goes from, and my family was well aware. The choice that I'm making to go to the school means my tuition is going to be much higher than if I had chosen to go to a public university, and that kind of thing goes into that. And second, as far as a proclamation maybe on social media, that kind of thing, if people don't know, my son was in a viral video a few years back that got 50 million views on Facebook when he was 3 years old, and it'll still pop up every now and then, of him reciting Bible verses. That's all it was, just him sitting in a room reciting Bible verses, and I recorded it and put it up. And of the millions of comments we got, there were a fair share of, it's a shame this little boy doesn't know the truth, or it's a shame this little boy doesn't realize that God doesn't exist, that kind of thing. So I have experienced a version of what you're describing there at the same time. I want to ask you about because you mentioned at the beginning of our conversation that many people who would call themselves atheists now, including yourself, come from some form of a background of a faith tradition or have spent some time as part of a religious group. How often do you say to yourself, think to yourself, hear from others in your group some version of, well, this is why I left? Like how often does something come up that is the response to it from someone who is now an atheist, who was not always, that they say it's things like this that made me put it down?
All the time, and not nearly enough. Now that last part is very much my own opinion. As a group, KCAC wants people to have a place to come forward and tell exactly that story. This is what happened, and this is why, I no longer, align with a faith community or a faith system at all. Because in doing so, they do find they're not alone. If you were to ask me, what does KCAC really want? We want people to know that organizations like us exist. There's an absolutely amazing organization called Recovering from Religion that is run by a wonderful person, somebody who served as a mentor for me at many points, Dr. Darrell Ray. He's a very controversial and very polarizing person at times, and that's by design. He's trying to go out and stimulate difficult conversation. But Recovering from Religion is a support line that people can call if they are in an abusive system. Sadly, we have seen numerous examples of cases within a religious system where people have come out on the other side, with court cases and litigation, allegations, and people being prosecuted, going to jail for abuse. I don't have to tell anybody where to look for instances of that are both recent and, in the distant past, over the last 200 years. So yes, we do hear a lot of those stories. Some of them are extremely difficult to hear because they're stories of direct trauma, abuse, subjugation of people, and that subjugation or that abuse occurred specifically, almost thematically, under the banner of, this is what my religion says I'm allowed to do. I have dominion over you. That's something that makes a lot of us hurt. A lot of us atheists really hurt in our hearts to know that there are people who feel they have to be subordinate to someone else. And I mean, church and faith systems, they tend to have, imagine you're a person who doesn't currently subscribe to a faith tradition. You're effectively unaffiliated, but let's say you're shopping. You want to try to find, a faith community where
what
you
fits
fit
me. What fits me? Yeah.
Right. Church and faith systems have a stigma. I'm not saying they have an identity. They have a stigma from the outside of being very opinionated. And, I think that's likely a case of some very high profile, wealthy churches and certainly some religious content creators, people who are popular as a Christian content creator on like YouTube or other platforms, things like that. They may be kind of earning a rep for the whole group, so we got to take that with a grain of salt. It may not be fair to paint all Christians with the broad brush of somebody like Joshua Feuerstein or Joel Osteen. But here's the thing. Most people, I think, don't want to make social judgments. They don't want to go out into public and say, I'm right about this and you're wrong. They don't want instinctively to go out and say, you're gay and that's evil. That's the worst thing you could be, or you're an atheist and that's evil. They don't have a natural inclination to do this. And I think that's especially true among young people. That's why we're seeing an increase in secularization among our younger populations, because look at what your options are from, just 2 or 3 steps back. You have option one, which is to pick a church that effectively requires you to carry their morals and their maxims. Mm-hmm. And in doing so, they're committing you to pass judgment at some point. Like you said, you're called to go out and share your faith. You're called to be a fisher of men, right? And so these are things that are inherent to evangelical systems. It's called proselytizing. You're obviously aware well of that.
Yeah.
But they're committing you to pass social judgment before you even have a real life occasion to do so. And then you have option two, which I would maybe a little bit derisively call like the strip mall churches or the new wave churches, where, you know, their message is very inclusive and tolerant and we welcome all to the table. I absolutely love that. You know, I love that ethic on their part, but they're not committing you to say, you know, this is your mission now, and this is what you have to go out and do, and here's your list of our beliefs that you have to carry and espouse throughout your life. So they're not committing you to something. So what are young people going to say? You say, well, I choose nothing. You know, what's the point? Option one makes me have to do things I'm uncomfortable with. You know, my gay friends, like, they don't jive with this mentality.
Right.
You know, and people who, you know, look at option two, kind of the more open and inclusive churches say, you know, well, if I don't have to buy in, then why even go?
So what's the thing that's changing me, for lack of a better way to describe it?
Sure. And we see that in the numbers too, you know. So 2014 Pew Research has about 22%, almost 23% of Americans as religiously unaffiliated. That's not to say atheists. That's just to say they don't claim a specific faith tradition.
Right.
Within that, about 3% are, you know, capital A atheists, you know, people who identify that as that. December 2021, that number is ballooned to 29%. So Pew Research just releases this last year, and you can go look at methodology on their website if you want to critique it and things like that. I encourage people to do that. Critical thinking is central to the concept of atheism. But, you know, we're seeing a distinct climb in the number of people who say, I'm not choosing either option.
Yeah.
It's a bit simplistic, but that's the thing. Most people right now are already committed to social standpoints that they feel they have to defend, just talking about whether or not people should receive health care as a human right.
Yeah.
You know, why do we need to delve into the icky, sticky topic of religion on top of all of that? You know, we just want to go to the hospital and get our broken ankle set and taken care of without having to wipe out life savings. You know, we're not thriving elsewhere. The middle class is not thriving elsewhere. Why do we need this religious conversation on top of it? And so the more people push to try to say America is a Christian nation, the more I think the religious right can expect to see the number of secular individuals climb. It's a non-starter for a lot of people. It's a non-starter for youth. The sooner they recognize that and start saying, okay, look, yes, you go to your church, you believe what you want to believe, and allow it to motivate you to do good out in the world.
Yeah.
And do as much good as you possibly can. And how about we just leave it at that? How about we just legislate with no specific idea as to which religion is right?
Yeah.
That's going to be a very inclusive conversation. That's going to bring people under, you know, every party's tent. But we're not doing that, and I'm not sure why.
I actually saw an article the other day, I think it was from Axios, that I tweeted or retweeted the other day, talking about the numbers of people who say now, according to the survey, that they believe in God or a God. And it was saying how many of the people that the numbers of people who happen to identify politically as left or left leaning were dropping in that category. And I retweeted it and I said, I wonder how many people will read this and their reaction will be shame on them for walking away from God, when maybe the better question should be, gee, I wonder why they're walking away from God. And that's a question that I know as a member of a church organization that we need to do a better job of asking, of not just, well, I've accepted they've walked away and I'm angry at them for it, versus why are we just accepting on face value that someone has walked away? Why are we not asking questions about, gee, tell me more about why you made this decision, because it should inform me as a member of the organization that you left or of the idea that you just left. I should learn something from you about why someone's leaving.
This is why I am so grateful that there are people like you out there, Taylor, because yes, that's exactly it. And interestingly, we see that exact question mirrored in corporate culture. You know, why has the anti-work movement gained so much steam over the last years, despite their huge downfalls and mistakes and missteps. They've had some absolutely atrocious interviews go out on mass media, and have seriously been hindered by that. But the movement is strong. The point of asking the question, was it the employees' fault? Could they just not take the grind,
Right.
or was it the corporate culture that pushed them away? I'm not going to say either way, because that's a whole nother Zoom call.
Well, but to your point too, I mean, there comes a point where it has to be agreed upon, maybe even is the best way to put it, that the question is as important as the answer. The question being asked is, you don't get to the answer if the question is never asked, and I think that's kind of what we're talking about here. I want to get to another thing here, because we've already been talking for like 45 minutes. I want to ask you about the idea of community for you, specifically with KCAC. And again, that's, if you missed that earlier, it's Kansas City Atheist Coalition. In our prior phone call before, when we first talked about the other story I was talking to you about, you referenced the fact that you as a group, KCAC, goes and finds opportunities to be of service to people, or around to help people. What are some of the missions, I guess, is the best way to ask this, of KCAC? What do you do as a group that people would maybe see you somewhere, recognize you somewhere?
Absolutely. So we're going to try each and every year, assuming there's not a current health crisis that may endanger our members, to go out and participate in things like Pride Fests. We stand firmly in our support of the LGBTQIA plus community. That is extremely important to us and to our members. We make regular monetary donations to groups like Care Beyond the Boulevard to help people receive just their basic needs met. We go and physically volunteer, I should say, most accurately. We have in the past. It has been tremendously difficult. As the president, I accept all responsibility for the fact that KCAC has not been very active out in the community over the past couple of years. It's tremendously difficult for me and our other board members to say, hey, KCAC people, you should go out and potentially endanger your health and that of your family's health. We're really reticent to do that. But when we can, we do go out to help with the Micah Ministries, which is on Gladstone Boulevard in Kansas City. This is a tremendous faith-based organization. And I'll be honest, selfishly, we have frequently held up our volunteerism with the Micah Ministries as an example of how we are willing to work with people of faith and just work together to see society improve. So we would go out on Monday nights and go serve meals to the working poor and the homeless of Kansas City, the unsheltered folks. And it's a really cool operation. I definitely want to plug the Micah Ministries because they are amazing. The operation is like a restaurant. So instead of people going through, kind of what we think of as a soup kitchen line, they go in and they sit down and they are waited on in a very, very simple way by the volunteers there. So they and their family go and they sit down. Someone comes to them. We are encouraged to chat with them just very briefly, ask them a question. How is your day? What can we do to help? I really like your Chiefs shirt. I'm a huge fan myself. Any of this is invited. We're encouraged to do that. And then we bring them food. We serve them. It's truly an amazing thing. You're going to put a lot of steps on your Fitbit going to volunteer at Micah, because you're just running back and forth, from your people to the kitchen. And then the really cool thing is after, they've eaten to their satisfaction and they can request second, third, fourth plates, they can eat as much as they need. After that, a second volunteer comes up and asks them, do you need clothing? Do you need hygiene supplies? Do you need a tent? Do you need a backpack?
Yeah.
And so the second waiter, if you will, wait person, will take their clothing and supplies order and then go back to their supply room and try as best as they can based on items that have been donated to fill those needs. So you can imagine how absolutely critical this is to some people during the winter. Yeah. It may be a life or death difference in that person's life, or their kid's life, more important. And it's just such a wonderful atmosphere. And I think I mentioned this to you when we talked before. the clergy that run that program are vocally how do I want to say it? They defend atheists being there. Some people, from other faith traditions have literally come in and said, what are the atheists doing here?
Right.
I'm also going to come right out and poke this organization right in the eye. We have tried to work with groups like City Union Mission, who require testimonial, who require that you be a person of faith to serve, who require that you're not gay. And what a massive disappointment. If you're really out to serve the population of Kansas City, why do you care what I believe or who I love when I go home? I'm here to help you. I could be helping you. I could be putting steps on my Fitbit, to benefit your organization and the people it serves. And you're literally going to tell me no based on demographic data. That is a massive disappointment. And this is why it's easy for atheists to come to the conclusion that, American Christianity especially is equivalent to fraud. Because it's a sham to say you're really out there trying to help people in every way you can and then deliberately deny a segment of people from being able to help you.
Yeah.
That's a lie. It's a contradiction in terms. But it's hateful as well. You're judging me based on who I am. I think that's kind of inherently hateful if your goal isn't to have a thoughtful conversation about why and how we can work together. And it's dangerous. It's dangerous to the LGBTQ community. It's dangerous to people of color and minorities at times who often have a diversity of religious viewpoints and faith systems, is saying you're not welcome here. And that type of look we've seen before. We've seen it with Jim Crow laws, and it doesn't lead anywhere good. And we're still there in a lot of ways, and we need to overcome that. And that's why I'm going to say the biggest and boldest thing I will probably ever say in my life. Secularism, it benefits us all. Secularism, at least in terms of separation in church of state, is without a doubt the way forward for American society. If we want to be healthy, if we want to continue to be the melting pot, these are the things that atheists get really fired up about. And I think for a lot of good reasons. We're just here to exist as ourselves, and we want to help you and other Christians who are willing to accept us make people's lives better. So we get together as a community to go out and say, hey, we're here, let's talk. And we get yelled slurs at us, and we get hateful messages sent our way, and we cope with that. We're used to it. Our skins are fairly thick.
Yeah.
But as the health situation keeps getting better and better, you're going to see KCAC out there doing more and more.
Yeah.
And so I encourage people to reach out to us on Facebook. We're just facebook.com/KCAtheists, and message us and just say, hey, I'm looking for some like-minded folks, and we can talk. If people need support resources like recovering from religion, we can point them that way. If there are clergy who are trying to work their way out of a system that they no longer believe they fit into, there's the Clergy Project. Just the fact that these mechanisms exist, people like Dr. Ray are out there trying to help thousands of people, tells you a lot about the traumatic influence, extreme religious belief, or sometimes even moderate religious belief has had on individuals. It's not always good. Doesn't always make lives better. But what
are your numbers like with KCAC?
Well, that's the thing. We don't ask our members to self-identify, because that can be potentially dangerous. So what I will tell you is that the numbers in our area are going to fall just a little bit below national averages. So I gave you a couple examples. Back in 2014, about 23% of the American population did not identify with faith tradition. About 3% of that was a hard A atheist. And I think in Missouri, because it's the Bible Belt, you're going to see a little bit lower. I'd put it probably 18 to 20%. But I'll be honest, that's an estimate. Because we're not going to be able to execute a survey that asks people to identify as atheists. That can be outright dangerous to people's lives and careers, to be known as an atheist.
Yeah.
I do it, but I do it very carefully. I choose, work and community systems to participate in who have an open message of being welcoming of people of all faiths and lack thereof. So I feel like I'm in a relatively safe place to do things like this interview and put my face on camera, because I'm part of a work community that openly embraces atheists. So I'm in a good spot. Every state, I believe, except for the state of Montana, has at-will laws in place that effectively allow an employer to fire an employee for any reason at any time. So they're not going to say, I'm firing you because you're an atheist. They're going to say, I'm firing you because you were 20 minutes late, last shift. And that was the last straw. We'll never know. But our numbers, I think, are kind of along that same line. So take the total population of Missouri,
Yeah.
6 million people. I think if you're standing in a room of 5 people, one of those people is likely an atheist.
Yeah. The last thing I want to ask you about is more on that topic, because I think I've said in other episodes of Faith in KC, when I've spoken to whether it be people of other faith traditions or whatever it was, that I can't think of an instance. I grew up in Texas. I've lived here for the last 5 years. I cannot think of an instance in my life in which I was afraid to acknowledge publicly that I am a Christian. Can't think of it.
Right.
And I don't think I had I know I didn't have a healthy enough appreciation for that fact until maybe the last 5-10 years of my life, of realizing how lucky I am to be able to say, and not just that, if we want to get into it, how lucky I am to be white, how lucky I am to be a man, and not good for me for being white. Like the fact that I am not put upon because I am a white male Christian.
Right.
It makes me sad as a Christian, as a member of faith community, to hear you describe people like yourself who would be afraid, for example, to do this interview with me because of what might happen to them professionally, publicly, personally, if someone finds out that they don't believe in God or a God. That makes me sad.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that, I think that my last question is to you is, what should that, is that the proper reaction? I mean, how should that make me feel as a member of a faith community to know that there are people right here in Kansas City who live and work alongside me who are afraid to say something about themselves purely because of a faith or non-faith situation? This is not about who they love. This is not about who their parents are. It's not about anything like that. It's simply, I do or don't believe in God. I don't want to tell people that. What should that tell me as a member of a faith tradition, that there are people here who are afraid to publicly say that?
Well, I mentioned to you before, I have 2 members who serve on my board who I cannot name publicly because they know that their livelihoods. See, we're a volunteer organization. KCAC does not pay anyone. I don't draw a salary.
Yeah.
These 2 people are absolute dynamos. They're spark plugs for our organization. They are dedicated to serving the community and speaking out for those less fortunate and defending, marginalized groups. Exactly. And I can't even tell you who they are. I can't recognize them publicly for that. What should your reaction to that be? Well, I don't want to fall into a pattern of telling you how to live your life. But as somebody who studied what I've studied, I've found the best relief in consideration, which is what I think you're encouraging, kind of a no-duh. How do I reflect on this? I think if I were to, in a friendly way, try to guide you on how to reflect on that, it would be put that feeling up against what your religious text tells you. And then for some outside reference, look at what other religious texts encourage you to do. And then for even further outside reference, go look, and this may be interesting, go look at how Robert Greenleaf teaches leadership. He teaches a servant leadership model. If you want a secular, non-stigmatized, non-religious, in any way, non-atheistic way to look at how to treat people as a leader within your organization or just as a citizen of the world, look at leadership, look at servant leadership. Because it teaches you how you can use ambition, your desire to grow your family's prosperity, to grow your company. It teaches you how to do that without grinding people into the ground. It teaches you how to bring people in of diverse viewpoints and faith backgrounds and walks of life, if you will. It teaches you how to bring them in and help them work as a team. So these are how I, in a non-inflammatory, non-incendiary way, encourage people of faith to look at that question. So then you think of it as maybe the employee in your office who's the lowest rung on the totem pole. How do we improve that employee's experience? How do we bring them into the fold? It's kind of a framework that takes religion and all that stigma and all of that antagonism out of the picture, gives you a healthy way to look at it, to see everyone benefit. Because in an office, when that employee that's really struggling or maybe disliked by a lot of people finally gets to a point where they're contributing, does that not help everyone in the office? Everybody sees a reduced workload. We have a healthier work culture. We see increased profits and benefits. And so that's the way I would encourage people to look at it. Take religion out of the picture. Look at that as a human being. If it helps put them in sort of a juxtaposed scenario, switch it up, change the backdrop, and think of it like if I knew there was an employee at work that was getting ragged on by my coworkers, what would be the tipping point for me to get in between them and my coworkers and say, guys, that's enough. Like, that's enough. This is a person in our office who belongs. And maybe if you got off the back, they could contribute more, and we'd all go home a little earlier every day to go play with our kids and have a nice dinner, So that's the funny part. It's not that hard. The anger makes it hard. The opinionation on both sides are guilty. I'm not going to clear atheists of that.
Right.
The antagonism is definitely not helpful. The dialogue is the willingness to say, I'm just going to take a shot and stand up for you today. I may not know you. I may not like at all what you believe or what you do. But what I'm seeing is not fair. So I'm going to say something. So, Taylor, if you find yourself in that position, feel free to say something. Because what I found when we go out and do Ask an Atheist, my goal is not to convert them to atheism. My goal, and I've done this, I've specifically done this. I've asked the person who vehemently disagreed with me at the beginning of our conversation. All I wanted to know at the end of our conversation was, do you have a different view of what an atheist is after talking with me? And they will almost always say yes. And then I say, the only thing I ask of you is when you go back to your faith community and somebody starts talking about atheists the way you thought of us when you walked up, tell them about the experience you had today.
Yeah.
Some chance that they will hear that if you talk to us, you find out we are literally just like you in almost every way. Just a difference in, what we believe happens once you get beyond the atmosphere.
Yeah.
So,
Jordan McKinney from KSHB. Jordan, I cannot thank you enough for the time today. I don't think I've done this before either. I want to apologize ahead of time for any particular comments that may pop up. If you see the comments once this is over, you said you've got thick skin. It's still, I think, fair enough for me to say I'm sorry in advance for anybody who sees this and takes a shot, because you have proven during the last hour that's not something you deserve. So I appreciate you. I appreciate you and your community doing everything you can to make KC better. And I really just appreciate the time and trying to open some minds today. Thank you very much.
Thanks again for the opportunity, Taylor.
Hello again. I hope you enjoyed that conversation with Jordan McKinney. Especially, I'm thankful if you've stuck around for the entire time. That was a little bit longer than what they normally are. And I am thankful that you've stuck around this long. You likely heard his comments about City Union Mission that I told you about at the beginning of this episode. As I said, I reached out to City Union Mission for a response, and I'd like to read you what they had to say. We appreciate the support of many volunteers at City Union Mission. It is true that if you're going to materially interact with our shelter guests, we require the volunteer to pass a background check as well as share our faith beliefs. We serve and care for everyone and believe all people are worthy of help when they are homeless. We are committed to sharing the gospel and meeting the spiritual, physical, and emotional needs of men, women, and children who are poor or homeless. It was important to me to reach out to them and give them a chance to respond directly because Jordan mentioned them specifically, and I'm very glad that they took the opportunity to do so and respond to that. Again, thank you so much for watching.